Another assault is expected at 6 a.m. So we have to give the unit some time to prepare and leave a little early.
Alright y'all, welcome back to Combat Arms channel. Okay, so today we're checking out another video from United 24. Now this is about the K2 Battalion conducting a night operation. So we have the embedded United 24 journalists while they're with these fighters from this battalion. It's always really interesting seeing the night missions specifically because, again, that just adds a certain level of planning and consideration, especially when it comes to like the journalists. It seems like a pretty hard thing for them to cover a night mission, you know, without kind of giving away that that unit, you know, with like noise and light discipline. But at the same time, it's awesome because we get to see them embedded while they're doing these operations. Now, while we don't always necessarily see like the direct feed from the fighters' night vision, it is still cool to see like the planning and execution that goes into it. Now, before we get into that, Tim Snyder, Mark Hamill, and United 24 got together and made this charity called Safe Terrain. And it's basically a charity that is used to fundraise for specific robots. So I think the statistic right now is that about a quarter of Ukraine's land is contaminated with unexploded ordnance, or like UXO. So these robots are basically used to support the fighters in that kind of terrain, either with demining, kind of like multi-purpose functions, like whether it be medical or resupply, or kind of like logistical and reconnaissance. So there's 3 robots that they actually kind of show in their fundraiser kind of websites. And I'll put a link to that down below if you guys want to go and check them out and read about them. There are some videos and whatnot you can find online or on YouTube about those specific robots and kind of their function. But those are kind of the 3 examples that they're using to help these fighters and to help Ukraine kind of clear out this, this contaminated land. So pretty awesome cause and pretty cool for them to be using these robots to kind of keep people out of harm's way. So definitely a good cause. So if you guys are interested and can support, check that link down in the video description. But let us check out the K2 Battalion on this specific night operation, specifically in the Siversk region or city. Yeah, should be good. Let's check it out.
We are in danger of being targeted by artillery. Let's hope everything is gonna be fine.
Oh, not the doggos.
Siversk, a city 10 kilometers from the front. From here, you can see Lysychansk and its massive oil refinery, which was seized in June 2022. After the fall of Lysychansk and Severodonetsk, the Ukrainian army managed to freeze the front in this area. However, there have been active battles here ever since, and over the past months, enemy assaults have become more frequent. Among the units defending Ukrainian soil here, the K2 Battalion holds a fairly wide line of defense. We're meeting with the...
Again, United 24 does such great coverage of these operations.
The K2 Battalion holds a fairly
and
wide
just
line.
Embedding themselves, I mean, again, we kind of saw this a lot with like Afghanistan and stuff, but for a war like this would be like, for a journalist to go and cover, especially be like on the front lines or like in the action with these fighters, they got some guts for sure, especially with the amount of indirect fire that, you know, doesn't necessarily discriminate so much, you know, with the fighters and other people necessarily.
Defense. We're meeting with the armored group of the unit first.
Interesting, okay.
My
Solid
name
camouflage.
is Dennis and my call sign is Teacher. My position is a BMP commander. My name is Serhi, tank gunner. Our task as an armored group is to be firefighters. We are the last hope of the infantry. If there is a very massive orc attack, then we have a certain time to get to the positions. We have to arrive, smash everyone, and save the guys.
Dude, and that's got to be such a stressful kind of mission or role to play. Again, talking about the infantry perspective, having some support like this on standby, especially like some sort of like quick reaction force, but especially something like this that's armored, can really save the day. I mean, we've seen it with a few other videos. It wasn't necessarily a tank. Like you have other armored vehicle, like infantry fighting vehicles that'll come in and that will kind of turn the tide dramatically if the enemy doesn't have any sort of armored or kind of, you know, light tactical vehicle. So for them to kind of have that mission, they understand for sure that if those guys are calling them in, they probably need some assistance. But also kind of having that timeline's got to be pretty stressful, especially kind of like while they're here, trying to be camouflaged, trying to be, you know, as low key as possible until they're actually being utilized.
Whether it's a tank or an infantry fighting vehicle, any heavy equipment arriving on the battlefield becomes the #1 target. But it's not out of pure luck that Denis and Serhiy have survived multiple years of brutal fighting. K2 is one of the first units to introduce such close cooperation with reconnaissance drone units.
Okay.
Any action on the battlefield is accompanied from the sky, including
Nice.
a tank mission.
Yeah, that's huge to be able to like point
This is
out
air
targets or
support.
threats.
This is battle management. The battalion commander and the headquarters are watching directly. They react to every change. Any change in the situation, we get a certain order to act. For example, as an infantry fighting vehicle commander, my view is very limited. The gunners is too, and the drivers even more so. We can't see everything.
Even though the terrain might seem flat, even if it's just like slightly sloping terrain, or if there's anything like this kind of like destroyed brush, your visibility is going to, be reduced dramatically. Even if you have thermals and whatnot, when you're at a certain distance, it really doesn't help that much, especially when you have like hot terrain such as like burning forest or these fields.
But from the sky, it's easy.
As you can see, even tankers need cover, when on a mission or even in their free time.
The guys have been fighting in this area for around 2 years, and since then the enemy has learned the roads and makes logistics for the unit very difficult. We were planning to film the frontline units, but turns out it's too dangerous for us to go during the day. So we will have to wait until the sun sets. Also, we're filming this in June, so this is the time where nights are super short. So we have around 6 hours to get in, visit few positions, and get out. So
Okay,
good luck to
damn.
us.
Damn, so that's wild. I didn't even, of course, you have to consider like the actual illumination for the day, especially for these guys. If they can only visit the front line during the night, that's pretty wild. So I wonder like how heavy the action is, especially if they're saying like during the day it's not necessarily safe. That's probably just because they have drones in the air, they have some other sort of recon assets to be able to kind of pick up on vehicles, which makes sense. But for the guys who are a little bit more entrenched, it might not be worth those ISR assets, those like recon assets, to kind of just continue strafing the trenches if they're not planning an actual attack. Especially if they're just trying to like ensure that the Ukrainians don't get their resupply, then kind of monitoring those roads is going to be more important or more helpful in the long run.
Finally, it's complete darkness outside, and Vitaly, our driver, takes us to the first position. Although we are under the cover of electronic warfare, still this road in front of us, we are in danger of being targeted by artillery. So let's hope everything is gonna be fine.
Dude, driving blackout with night vision
Vitaly
sucks.
tells us what he sees through his night vision device.
Especially with like an older generation night vision like that.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you see the road?
3.
From 1 to 10, well, 7. I can see 50 meters ahead.
7 is pretty
Road,
good.
The bumps.
Finally, we arrive at our first destination.
Now, though they're not going that fast, it still takes a lot of time to be able to process everything as you're seeing it. If the roads are like relatively flat or like just like paved roads, makes it a lot easier. You don't have as much to worry about. But if it's like more muddy roads and the conditions are like kind of like wet or kind of like variable, then it takes a lot more to process it to see if you're basically about to get your vehicle stuck, which wouldn't be a good
It's an
time,
aerial
especially at night.
reconnaissance dugout.
Try and do a
Long
recovery.
underground corridor where half of the people are asleep and the other half are drinking energy drinks and working. 2 pilots work in a carousel, meaning that as soon as one returns for a battery change, the other takes over. Without stopping observation for a second.
Ти вже знаєш там, наприклад,
Jeez,
It
that's
is very
stress.
important. We already know where our group is. If the shelling starts, we already know if they need help. Sometimes, when our groups are moving in the night, they can't see anything at all. So we tell them the direction
Damn,
and make
really.
sure they are safe.
Especially if the fighters on the ground don't have night vision.
Of course, this approach has its difficulties. I asked the guys when was the last time they were out of the position.
Ми тут постійно.
We are here all the time. We have day and night pilots.
Dude, his
I
eyes
also
must be so
heard
strained.
that there are some units that have rotations for 3 or 4 days. When we were asked, how long do you stay here? Guys, we don't have such a thing, but we are already used to it.
Damn, dude, yikes.
From one dugout to another.
I get so tired of
Go
looking
visit
at
a
that
night
screen,
bomber
but
unit.
it's kind of a
Under
necessity.
the light of stars and their red flashlights, the operators are testing a vampire bomber. The horizon is illuminated by outgoing and incoming shells.
But damn.
Да.
А это вампиры.
Vampires and bats. That's what we're flying so far.
Сейчас. Держи верхнюю эту трубу.
They have just completed remote mining missions, but in general they are a versatile unit. The Vampire
Damn,
is
that
a
thing
night
is
drone,
huge.
but this crew already flew out during the day to stop enemy assaults, scoring 4 killed enemies in just one flight.
No kidding. Damn. I mean, I don't know how much that thing costs. I imagine it's significantly more than the traditional drones that they're using. But for it to have that much effect is pretty clutch, especially just in like one day. But especially being like a really solid night asset, that would definitely be a huge help for those guys who are on the ground. Now, although they have like the red headlamp so they can kind of like see things for the most part, at least like what the lamp is directly shining on, it doesn't expose much, obviously, like around that. So you're pretty much looking exactly where the headlamp is going. So especially if you're trying to work on something a little bit bigger, it can be a little bit more like annoying, basically. It's kind of like constantly be looking around and shining the light specifically on what you're trying to work at, especially if you're working with somebody else, if they're trying to show you something. It just makes everything a little bit more annoying to deal with, especially just obviously you can't see as much. But having the tactical advantage of having a red lens and not something, you know, like a white light that'll give your position away for like miles, it's kind of, again, just a necessity. And at the same time, the red lens doesn't affect your night vision as bad, like your actual night sight. So if you turn it off as opposed to like a white flashlight, your eyes kind of became reliant on that. With the red lens, it's not so much the case. So you can turn it off and still be able to see pretty well without that light at that point, because your eyes have adjusted to the darkness. If you use like a flashlight or something, they just get reliant on that and it kind of burns your vision. It takes a while for your night vision to come back.
They're storming, but not as much as in the beginning. Not as hard. But every day they're attacking our infantry, shelling them, coming in like suicides in cars with one-way tickets towards our trenches. I don't know why they do it.
Our driver Vitaly is a member of the K2 mortar team, and we were supposed to visit his teammates, but the plans change. Another assault is expected at 6 AM, so we have to give the unit some time to prepare and leave a little early.
Damn. I wonder how they got that intel.
Dear viewers, we do our best to inform you as accurately as possible about what's going on at the Ukrainian front line. But in reality, it is very dangerous. So all I ask in return is for you to support Ukraine, donate to United 24.
Oh, so is their
You can
unit
also donate
assaulting
directly
them?
to the K2 Battalion. In the description to the video, we will have their PayPal. Thank you so much.
And of course, I'll put this original video in the description as well if you guys want to go and check it out. But definitely go and check out those other charities or the fundraiser below if you guys want to support the fighters. Again, another solid video by United 24, and their coverage is just so in-depth and so informative, not just in like kind of what we're able to see, but also the context that they're providing as far as why they are with specific units or why they can't be with certain units, or why they need to be traveling certain ways or have certain equipment. And it's also just nice to be able to kind of get some eyes on some equipment that we haven't seen before, like the Vampire kind of drone that they were working with. I'm not sure if we've seen that in any other videos, but it is kind of cool to get the exposure to all the other systems that they're using for their operations. And again, it's got to be so tough being on the front line because you're fighting a lot of complacency. For example, if you haven't been shelled for like a certain amount of time, like a few hours or even like a day or something, it must be so uncomfortable and kind of just have like a certain level of unease to kind of have that fear in the back of your mind. There's going to be an assault or there's going to be shelling. So for those guys there, it must be just hell. And I'm not sure how long they kind of do their rotations to the front lines, but for them to be there and kind of just constantly be expecting something like that has got to play such a mental toll, especially, you know, when the shelling does actually happen or the assaults do actually happen. Even if you have like drone support to kind of give you a heads up, it's still going to be pretty freaking stressful. So I can't even imagine what that must be like for those guys who are in the trenches or the positions there. But again, United 24, thanks for the awesome content, and thanks for allowing me to react to it as well without copyright claiming it. That's always pretty helpful. Yeah, a lot of times these videos don't get monetized, and I'm okay with that. But if they get restricted or if I need to cut out audio, it just kind of like makes the experience a little bit worse for the actual viewers. So I do appreciate that. And again, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think, and especially let me know what you think about the United 24 content compared to the other stuff, because the combat footage, again, super exciting to kind of like break that down, and of course something that I'm super passionate about. But again, getting more of like the journalist approach to whatever is happening kind of gives us another perspective, not just in the fighters, but more of like, you know, what actually is happening, and also what those kind of implications are in the back ends. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Again, check out the fundraiser link down in the video description. But that is it for this video. I will see y'all in the next one.